Do you know what this is? No, it's not some sort of torture device or a pocket-sized weapon. It's actually a wine opener and works a lot better than a traditional corkscrew that you may be familiar with because it removes stoppers without damaging them. It's a super specific, single-purpose device that does its job extremely well, and in that regard, it is exactly like Alfa Romeo's brand new 4C sports car. You can think of this two-seat coupe as an Italian version of a Porsche Cayman, and it heralds the Alfa brand's return to the United States after a 20-year absence. Now, the 4C is focused like few other cars on the market, offering stunning exterior design, razor-sharp handling, and precious little else. This is great news if you live on a twisty mountain road, frequently compete in autocross events, or spend your time at open track days. Sadly, though, it also means this is one very compromised vehicle. The 4C is extremely difficult to get into and out of. Its sills are wider than an outrigger canoe. Rearward visibility is essentially non-existent. The sun visors are unusable. There's no glove box. The trunk is tiny. It's deafeningly loud inside at just about any speed. There are no armrests, and its radio has the worst user interface I have ever experienced. That's a lot of negativity in a few sentences, but fortunately many of those attributes start to melt away when you drive the 4C in anger the way it was intended to be used. Appropriately, this Alfa is seriously quick, with an estimated 0 to 60 time of 4.5 seconds. Top speed is 160 miles an hour. Now, it delivers that acceleration thanks to solid engineering, not overwhelming amounts of power. See, it's built around a carbon fiber monocoque structure with various aluminum bits thrown in. This means it's incredibly rigid and quite light, measuring less than 2,500 pounds in US trim. Its mid-mounted 1.75-liter Turbo 4 delivers 237 horsepower with 258 pound-feet of twist. Torque is routed to the rear wheels through a 6-speed dual dry clutch automatic, the only transmission available. Get this thing out on a backcountry road and its horrendous blind spots, noisy cabin, and lack of armrests become almost irrelevant. Thanks to its fully mechanical steering, there's an unrivaled connectedness in this car that I absolutely love. The 4C's wheel is beautifully weighted, extremely responsive, and more accurate than a scientific instrument. Body roll is basically nil. Owing to carbon fiber, the structure is probably the most rigid of any vehicle I've ever driven. There is no sense of flexibility. There are no shudders or creaks. It's so stiff it's practically like piloting a brick of depleted uranium. Not surprisingly, the 4C's ride is firm, though it's not quite as vicious as you might expect. And you definitely feel bumps and ruts in the road, but it doesn't savage you. Remember, this car is extremely light and its grip is absolutely tenacious. It should be beating you up over a tiny pebble on the asphalt. There are 3 driving modes to choose from, and you switch between them with a toggle on the center console. In descending order of aggressiveness, there's dynamic, natural, and all-weather. The last one markedly dulls the car's responses for slick conditions. In dynamic mode, acceleration in this car is certifiably fast, and the boisterous engine just howls right here over your shoulder. You can hear the turbo whooshing almost like a leaky air compressor hose, and then there's the exhaust, which burbles and pops. It's hard to believe the 4C is street legal. It makes so much noise, but of course, our car was equipped with the optional $500 race exhaust, so that could explain some of that extra noise. As for this car's dual clutch transmission, I'm not really a fan. At certain situations, it can feel pretty crude. There's a slipping sensation at slow speeds, and you can also confuse it if you get on the throttle sometimes really heavily and then back out again. It's not the greatest performance. Of course, when you're really on it, this car will bang off shifts extremely quickly, but still, that's not enough to win me over. Personally, I would still much prefer a proper manual gearbox. As for consumption, the 4C should average 28 miles per gallon, which isn't too shabby given its performance, but don't expect to hit that figure driving like this. Base price for one of these limited production beauties is around $55,000, though if you want a spring for one of the 500 available launch edition models, plan on spending about 70 big ones. The Alfa Romeo 4C is purposeful and about as raw as a bag of chicken thighs. It's an exceptional piece of equipment for a dedicated task. Now, you probably wouldn't want to remove a lash from your eye with one of these, and likewise, you're not going to want to commute to work every single day in a 4C, nor are you going to want to take it on a 1,000-mile-long road trip. It's just not that suited to these tasks. At first, its many faults really turned me off, but the more I drove this car, the more I came to like it. It is an absolute blast on a twisting road, and people stare at you like you're not wearing any pants. Just look at this thing. It's stunningly beautiful. Now, if you are a hardcore enthusiast, the Alfa 4C could be the Porsche alternative you've been waiting for. He knew how to cook gravy. You gotta cook the cracklings till they float. You got it? It's a secret. That's one of his 11 herbs and spices was the cracklings. Nobody likes to talk about cracklings.